Yeah, it's your boy Danny J. Quick, and I'm here with Kyron Silva. And we want to thank you for joining the Four Tales podcast.
I want to know what it is Quick is trying to say.
We're about to talk some comics and get a little bit controversial. Everything from indie books to movie deal level commercial. With no rehearsals when we converse to coerce you. And then we do the quick takes and try to get to the person. So join us and get your comic book a few more sales once a week wherever you pod. It's Four Tales. Once a week wherever you pod. It's Four Tales.
All ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Taurus Comics in collaboration with Fourth Wall Productions respectfully brings to you the 165th episode of the Four Tales podcast. I'm your host, Kyron Silva from Taurus Comics. Across the way, I can never remember how to do this, is your wine writer of Ace Blade, Danny J. Quick, and together we are your two award-winning blurred comic creators here to help you find your next favorite comic. We are live on the Age of Geekdom Network via Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and possibly TikTok. So if you're listening or watching us live, thank you for your... No, not TikTok. I think my TikTok is actually working. If you can check on that, that'd be great. If you're listening and watching us live, thank you for your support. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and review this podcast because all your positive reviews and interactions help us reach a bigger audience. Danny J. Quick.
Kyron Philadelphia Silva. What's your middle name?
No, I'm not saying I'm not saying my middle name. Not that you can't find anybody else in the world with my name, but why Philadelphia?
I don't know. It just felt right in a moment. I don't know.
KPS.
I don't know. No. It just felt right. I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to go on a mission to figure out Kyron's middle name. I'm sure I can find it. The internet is crazy these days. How you been, man?
Tired. Between you, the Crocker Art Museum, my family or my wife wanting me to redo the kitchen, and Brian Lambert and my artists working on my books, I am tired.
I know, right? It feels like I saw a video earlier today, and we need to get back to when we were bored. Like
yes.
it was saying that like we had when we were younger, there were so many like great memorable times because there was so much distance between activities. Like now we're always doing something. Seems
right.
like our time is always, taken by something, whether it's work or content or podcasts or entertainment or something like that. We don't have time to just be bored. And I can't even say I'm going to do that because I don't have time to be bored right now. I don't have time for it.
Well, speaking of no time for anything, if you guys are in the Sacramento region on September 21st, please come down to the 11th annual CrockerCon at the Crocker Art Museum. I've mentioned this a few times over the past few months. I am co-event coordinating with this, but we have a great lineup this year. We have Mike Norton, creator of Battle Pug, Eddie On, creator of the Advocate comic. We have a bunch of creators coming from the northern region. So if you are bored like Danny wants to be, please come down. It's a free event. There's going to be a lot of creators, and we hope you guys support. I want to get you to actually be a guest at that show one day.
I want to come out there. I want to come out there for real.
But I got to talk to the museum and see if they okay your travel costs. I think I can talk them into it, honestly.
I'll come. Hey, if you can set it up, I'll be there.
I'm not joking at all. I really can't.
And I'll promote for the show and all that stuff. So I'll promote for the show either way. But
all right.
Yeah, I'd love to come, man. For sure.
I want to see you cut a promo too.
like an old school wrestling promo.
Yeah.
Speaking of, that was a great segue, Kyrie.
Thank you.
You're a professional at this. We've got a professional in the building. We've got he's worked for everybody from Meta to Ubisoft, 505 Games, Paramount Digital, Disney Interactive, and many, many more on the gaming side. But we got him here to talk about his comics. We got Mr. Ed Kuehnel in the building. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I was realizing as you were talking about the Sacramento comic event coming up,
CrockerCon? Yeah.
CrockerCon, that you and I, Kyron, know someone in common in, I think, Eben Burgoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Evan and I are actually the event coordinators putting this all together.
Okay. I got to know Eben a little bit and got to meet him in person. Because when we were first working on Invasion from Planet Wrestletopia, the comic book, we were briefly involved in like a sort of a mini press, sort of a publisher, I guess. And so was he. And it didn't end up really going anywhere with that, but I got to know him a little bit and have followed him on social media. And I know he's like really involved in the Sacramento art scene and comic book scene. So, small world. Yeah.
The internet is a very small place, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be surprised how many people you know from, like how they used to do with 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. You can
Yeah.
anybody nowadays.
Comic books is probably kind of like that, right? The comic book industry, the game industry is like we say you're like 2 degrees of separation from anyone in the game industry. Like I've never met Miyamoto, but I know a whole bunch of people who have and have worked with him and all this stuff, and it's crazy. Yeah, but thanks for having me. I'm really excited to come on for a couple of reasons. I'm excited just to come on and talk to you guys, but I also feel like you being comic creators yourselves, and I've checked out Taurus Comics, and I feel like I can learn a lot from you guys because I've been in the game industry a long time. Comic books, not so much. So I'm excited to learn how I can figure out how to sell books on TikTok because I haven't figured it out yet.
Oh well, Danny's perfect for that. I'll just leave the stream if you want him to do that. He's the expert on that.
Yeah. No, I thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you guys and learn
we're
something.
excited to talk to you also. I'm looking at your resume. It seems like, well, I was thinking, what happened to the rabbits? Like they were. It seemed like Nintendo was pushing it hard for like 2 years. And I was like, yeah, man, those games were fun. I wonder what happened to that. So
now, are you talking about the Mario Rabbids sort of crossover? Okay, yeah. So Mario Kingdoms, so for people who haven't played it, it's exclusive to the Switch. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle was the first game, and it engendered, I think, one DLC, and then they came out with the sequel, Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. And that had a couple more DLCs. One of them which has Rayman in it, which was wild. First of all, I'll just say, like, for me, so I was that was a Ubisoft game, but it was in deep collaboration with Nintendo, obviously, because the game, for you people who haven't played it, it stars the Rabbids from the Rayman franchise, and then Mario and Princess Peach and Luigi and let's see, Bowser Jr. is in there, and Bowser briefly, and probably forgetting a few characters. But for me, like as a writer, and first of all, to work in this franchise was just awesome. And then all of a sudden, I am working with Mario and Luigi. It is mind blowing, and they don't say a whole lot, obviously, right? They have some canned phrases, but I did get to write a little bit of dialogue. For some of the Princess Peach, I think Bowser Jr., maybe even a little bit for like Mario and Luigi, like a little bit, but just to be sitting there with the script software open and to be typing like Mario, Luigi, and I'm like, this is the best. So they're really fun games. They were. I've never seen anything like it. Like when it was first announced, people, Nintendo fans especially, were really unhappy. They're like, why are you tainting the Mario franchise with the Rabbids? And I've never seen anything like it. But by the time the game made it to GDC, Game Developers Conference, and they showed a big playable, demo and everything, and the gaming public just turned. It was like professional wrestling. It was like it was like a heel to babyface turn. A heel to babyface, and everyone so they're like, oh, they loved it. They loved the passion, but behind David Soliani, the creative director there at the time, whose vision this all was. And the game came out. It was a really good game.
Yeah,
turn based, sort of like XCOM, but with Mario and the Rabbids, and it was really fun. it did well, right? It beat expectations for sure. The first game, second game, I think it's just it's the obvious answer, right? Like if it had sold amazingly well, they'd be making another one. I think
Right.
I'm not privy to numbers or anything. I think it sold. My impression is it sold pretty well, but didn't sales wise didn't necessarily knock it out of the park.
Mhm.
I would be surprised if we didn't see uh, if we've I don't think we've seen our last Nintendo Rabbids collaboration. I would imagine at some point they'll try it again when they think
Okay.
Yeah.
there's a big enough audience for it. But it was so much fun, and I got to work. I said one of these DLCs, the second game had Rayman, so I got to write dialogue for
Right.
Rayman,
Nice.
um, some other just so a few other iconic characters. Well, Donkey Kong again doesn't say much, but like Diddy Kong is in this DLC. Diddy Kong, no, Diddy Kong, yes, but also it was the one who actually has some lines was the I know I forget his name, the old man, like Donkey Kong's
Cranky?
grandpa.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like cranky Kong, exactly, with the beard and everything. Um, yeah, I would I'd work on that stuff forever if I could. So we'll see.
Absolutely. So
All right.
I wonder what are some of the differences in approach? Well, of course, you got a
Yeah,
character like an iconic character like Mario.
yeah.
Why are you gonna steal my question? That's exactly what I was gonna ask.
We've been doing this long enough. We're gonna
All
steal each other's questions every now and then. But no, I was just thinking in the approach. Of course, you got huge characters like Raymond and Mario and
Yeah,
Luigi, who everybody kind of knows their voice, but crafting a story like this one, the invasion from Planet Wrestletopia, where you
yeah,
have these characters that are kind of larger than life, and we all know. Well, Kyron's a bigger wrestling fan than I am, but you got these iconic characters who are kind of like promoting this world of wrestling.
yeah.
What's the difference in approach on doing something like that?
And before you answer that,
Sure.
I just want to let you know I just reached out to Evan. He says he remembers you from SBI
Yeah,
Press,
yeah,
and he said you
yeah.
were a bright spot to talk to. So
That's yeah. I love talking to him.
that was gonna be my question.
I think he came up for in Tacoma. They used to have what they call Jet City Comic Con. Now it's called like I don't know Grind City. Really nice little Comic Con. Probably similar to what you guys are doing in Sacramento, where it's really cool, comic books focused, not too big. Where it gets to be too crazy. You know what I mean? And very focused one day and a lot of fun. So yeah. Um, okay, so well, the approach is, I mean, it's for video games. There's so many differences, right? I guess one thing is you're dealing with Nintendo characters, and um, obviously Nintendo wants to be very careful about how their Mario and Luigi are used. It's a
Yeah.
big deal and perceived. So really every word, everything has to be vetted by Nintendo just to make sure it's with good reason. It's on license and on brand, and but it can be tricky sometimes. I was shielded from a lot of this, but it could be a lot of feedback, right? Um, the and so with Invasion of Planet Wrestletopia, my co-writer was Matt Enton, who's another longtime video game writer. So we're used to that. We're used to basically working with existing IPs from television, adapting them to games, or just existing characters within games, the games itself. Um, highly collaborative. With Invasion of Planet Wrestletopia, it was just Matt and I's creator-owned work, and we had probably like you guys, right? With Taurus, it just really total creative freedom. If you can draw it, or you can pay someone, in our case, to draw it, the sky's the limit, and that was really great, as you can imagine. So there's the freedom of working on your creator-owned project. It's just the total creative freedom, which was which is really refreshing and really fun. The other big difference really is the medium. Is the mediums are so different, right? In video games, it's interactive. The player gets a vote. Like the player can be kind of unpredictable. They're never necessarily looking at what you want them to look at when you want them to look at it, right? It's a totally different style of writing, and the games are so much more complex. You're doing this in collaboration with just dozens and dozens of artists, programmers, sound people, producers, just everything. And you have to be, so careful, right? To y'all have the same page at the time.
Ed, I think we lost you. Can you hear me? Or is it me? Danny, are you frozen?
Froze up a little.
No, I can
Okay.
hear you.
Oh, the joy of live.
Okay, there you go.
He's
Okay,
back.
there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got you now.
Oh man.
Can you hear us?
Okay, come on.
Uh-oh. Well,
See,
it was getting.
this is the issue with live connection. Well, let's see. We got Ed back here.
They didn't want us getting the secrets to
Yeah.
video game writing.
No, shut us
Nintendo
down.
said, "No, we cut him off."
I'm
He's
sorry.
telling
yeah.
you too much. He's telling us too much.
So where I was at was, video games are so different, and from a production standpoint, just intense collaboration with lots of people, and it's a big deal. With comic books, it was also so refreshing. I mean, I know that making comic books is hard, but for us, it was like script, give it to one artist, one. They draw it. It's a lot of work for them, and it takes them a while. But one artist, not 17.
Yeah.
And then the artist is done and hands it to the colorist, one colorist, who then, when they're done, turns it over to one letterer. And then you have a graphic designer put it together, and boom, you have a comic book. And it did not take 90 people, to make this thing. All 90 people all working concurrently on the same deal. And so that was the difference there is, as you can imagine, is enormous, right?
And I think with creating something like this book, like you were talking about the freedom, you get to create characters like Manifest Destiny, who, if this was your own, if you're working for another studio, you'd have 3 or 4 different people ahead of you or above you try and tell you, give you nitpicking on what it's going to look like, what he sounds like. Whereas you get that freedom now where you can just do whatever the hell you want with him and just be good. As long as you're happy with it, you can just keep going.
Yeah. There was no producer, no license holder. There was no, there was no one to vet anything. Just really pure creative freedom, of just me and one other writer collaborating. And it's so much fun. Like it's so rewarding, and it's nice, creative outlet. I get to be creative at my work. I'm pretty lucky, and I love game writing. But to make, like you said, to make these characters in just with our vision, was awesome. It may have been not as much fun for the artists we worked with, because we were very, we were like very much like, very descriptive. Like, I know this was not the Marvel method, right? This was not like, just kind of draw what you want. We were pretty, we were probably, pretty particular. But the artists seem to have fun with it too. They seem to enjoy learning about, old school wrestling and all that stuff.
I can tell you, as someone who's been a writer for other people and been an artist for other people, especially if this is the first time working with that artist, a lot of times we enjoy the extra descriptions and leading our hand.
Yeah.
If this is the first time working with you.
Okay.
A couple of issues down the line, when I've gotten the feel of how you write, you can hold back a little bit and let me be free. But especially if it's first time, that helps out because we want to be able to understand your vision instead of just our vision sometimes.
That's a really good point. I mean, because I did worry a little bit that we were being, we did our research about writing for comics, and we understand that a lot of artists don't want too much in the way of description, but we wanted it the way we wanted it. But the feedback I got from the artists was like, I love this. I love you. I love not having to think super hard about the lobby of the museum because it's I love knowing that certain things need to be in the scene because they become important later. They may not seem important at first, but they are important. So we got some good feedback there from the artist, but then sometimes I'll watch like a podcast of like professionals, and the writer will be like, well, Steve likes to draw dragons, so I made the whole story about dragons. I'm like, I don't know.
Kyron likes to draw horses, so
okay, so the horse in every story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He hates it. He hates drawing horses.
Yeah. I can imagine. To be able to draw, though, I at this point, I really don't want to draw, but I wish I knew how to draw, right? Because it's comic books is by far the most accessible medium, but you got to pay the artist, so we paid them their full page rate. Everybody got paid, and it was and they did a fantastic job with the book.
Yeah.
We're really happy with
amazing.
the art. Yeah, and we get a lot of compliments on the art and all that stuff, but knowing how to draw that would be great.
So we haven't actually talked about the story. What is Invasion from Planet Wrestletopia actually about?
Okay, so sort of the elevator pitch, if you will. It's a professional wrestler, rock and roll Rory Landell, and his promoter is this unscrupulous guy, Dick Drazen, who promises him that he'll be world champion, and then he reneges on his promise, right? So Rory Landell is really pissed. He goes on live television and he goes, you know what? Screw the world belt anyway. I'm declaring myself the galactic champion of the universe, brother. Of course, the TV signal goes out into outer space. It's intercepted by Planet Wrestletopia, who has their own galactic champion. You referenced, you mentioned him earlier, Manifest Destiny. And he's pissed. So Earth is invaded. It's put in a steel cage. Aliens invade, and Manifest Destiny demands that Rory face him in the ring to decide, who's the real galactic champion. By the time that happens, though, Rory, it's been like 15 years, so Rory is kind of suffering the same fate that a lot of these wrestlers do, which is that life is not kind to him. No. He's living like, he's kind of like homeless, and he's more interested in bar, going to drinking than anything else. But he's Earth's last best hope. So that begins the whole story, and it's obviously an action comedy. It helps to be a wrestling fan, but we heard this a lot: is you don't have to be a wrestling fan to enjoy it. It's fun, it's funny, it's got some heart to it. And the response has been great. We're trying to get it out there and sell some books.
One of my favorite movies, I'll say, is Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest, yeah. But this, when I started reading it, it put me in the same vein as kind of a Galaxy Quest, with the aliens, building a culture. Well, it's kind of the reverse of this, but they build a culture around this TV show that they received, and then what the characters did, years ago comes back to kind of punch them in the face, as you say. In your guys' case, literally punch him in the face. But I love stories like that where the characters have to take accountability for their actions, and especially when you got these amazing characters. I did want to ask you, what was the character design process like? I don't know, as a writer, like you said, if you're not an artist, but did you and your artists, did y'all work with the artist a lot on specific characters, or did you give them a lot of freedom with that?
Well, yeah. So first, I wanted to say that it's interesting you mentioned Galaxy Quest, because one of my favorite reviews that we got from a comic book site was this is Galaxy Quest plus wrestling, and it makes me so happy.
That's what I thought too. Actually, Galaxy Quest
Yeah,
plus The Wrestler, the movie
yeah.
The Wrestler.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
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 And the other interesting thing you said was the accountability, because just the last podcast I just did, I sent them the PDF, and two of the guys really liked the book, and one of them went on. One of the things he liked about it was Rory had to grow up and be accountable for his actions. So it's really interesting that two people sort of back to back are zeroed in on that accountability piece. Character designs, yeah. I mean, so the first artist we worked with, Dan Scotty, really talented young guy, done a lot of work for Dark Horse, and in fact, he's got a web comic he did is being published by Dark Horse in print. It's called Lavender Jack. And it's not his first professional job in for Dark Horse, but really talented guy. But he didn't know anything about wrestling, so we got a lot of these old school. I used to have a big box of like wrestling magazines from the 70s and 80s, those old things, right? And we had to be pretty specific. So with like Rock and Roll Rory Landell, he's obviously an amalgam of a bunch of different wrestlers, like maybe Hogan and Savage. But I think the one guy visually we kind of focused on for him was this guy called Superstar Billy Graham.
Yep, I saw that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, a lot of people may not remember who that guy is, but he was
the pre-Hogan big wrestler back in the day.
He was the big blonde guy. He was Hogan before Hogan. There was a Hogan. In fact, he was. I think
a lot of people say it.
Yeah, I think he was champ. I think back at that time it was known as WWWF.
Yes,
which then became WWF and now WWE. But Superstar Billy Graham was the champ for Vince McMahon Sr., I think.
Yeah,
and was kind of he was kind of like a Savage Hogan character. But people back then sort of didn't get it. He was like a little ahead of his time. They're like, 26-inch pythons. Yeah. Anyway, so we kind of focused on that guy. But same thing for most of the characters was we wanted to do what we do really for games. Really was kind of we do want to give a description, focusing more on what's important for the story, and then give the artist some freedom as well to come up with what they think is cool and all that stuff. But we would give him sort of like clippings and we'd find pictures on the internet, but we gave him a box of these old wrestling magazines to like look through for all kinds of ideas, and he appreciated it. I think he got a kick out of it. There's I'm sorry, I got it. Nicholas Sarabia. I apologize for pronouncing your name wrong, from Corvallis. He's someone that I met online. He lives in Corvallis. I have two kids that go to Oregon State in Corvallis, Oregon. And
nice.
And hi, Nicholas. Hi to everybody in the chat. But forgive me for going off track there. But there he is.
Superstar. Yeah. And a lot of people do say that Hulk Hogan took his look from Superstar.
I can see it. I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, there's it, right?
Big body. And you know what? They all stole it from Nature Boy Buddy Landell, I think it was. Buddy Rogers. Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. So it was like they all stole it from Buddy, and then other wrestlers stole. So Billy Graham stole it from Buddy Rogers. Hulk Hogan stole it from him. Someone else has stole it from Hulk Hogan.
It was easier back then because there were territories, and one person would just stay in their one little territory, and no one would know what somebody from the other side of the country looked like. So it was like, who knew?
You had to be a tape trader, and later when VHS came, people started like, I'll record Florida wrestling on my crappy VCR. You record Portland wrestling, and we'll mail each other the tapes. And then people started getting an inkling, like, why is this guy like a baby face in Florida, and then the Pacific Northwest, he's a huge jerk, and they start, thus began the the fall of kayfabe, right?
Danny's like, this is the worst conversation ever.
I'm like the things you can get away with before the internet.
and yeah, and the thing is, I don't actively watch wrestling these days. I was obsessed with it as a kid, and what I do find interesting about it today is what a crazy sort of outlaw subculture it was back in this. To be a wrestler, it was a very like it was really kind of like being a carny or something. They had their own secret kind of way of life and their own sort of secret code, kayfabe, and it really was and is a fascinating sort of business or entertainment form. Even if you're not, I don't watch SmackDown or Raw anymore, but that whole subculture, especially in the 70s and 80s and before that, was to me pretty fascinating, and that's a lot of what's in that book. Yeah.
Love it. I do want to ask you because a lot of what you mentioned before about Roy and how he was not doing well as a wrestler,
Yeah.
and in his older years he was down on his luck. That actually happens to a lot of wrestlers
Yeah.
that don't make it to the big time. What did you do as far as your research on something like that?
We did read a lot. So what's really interesting again about today is that this code of silence, this mafia-like code of silence that wrestlers used to have about their industry, which they call kayfabe, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, is broken. So it's kind of almost like these mobsters come out and now they're doing documentaries and telling about all the stuff they did. It's these wrestlers are writing books and
WWE
producing.
has a whole series on Netflix that gives you all the details.
Yeah, but even if you get away from WWE approved stuff, like the superstar Billy Graham wrote a book, right?
Yeah.
And he just talks about everything. He just lays it. Now, who knows how much is true and how much he's coloring,
and how much he actually remembers.
Yeah, right. How much he remembers after all the chair shots to his head. But all these wrestlers are just talking about like the business and the decisions that got made and the putting it all out there. And so I mean, just got a kick at it. I read all books by all these different, wrestlers, these biographies that were written. They would, they wouldn't write them themselves usually, but fascinating stuff, right? Superstar Billy Graham just talks about his whole life and all, some of the crazy stuff he did and dumb stuff he did. He doesn't hold back too much. So it was a lot of that research that was really, quite honestly, fun. And then buying these old magazines are a trip because these old magazines were all in on wrestling. They helped wrestling keep that sort of veneer or that facade of this is not choreographed. This is not scripted. This is just a sport. And the magazines were sort of all in on that. So there was a ton of material out there, and for me, it was like honestly a real joy. And part of it is like, when you're a kid and they're like, well, Harley Race just lost the NWA World Heavyweight Championship to Tommy Wildfire Rich. And you're like, even as a kid, you're like, what the hell? Like, that doesn't make any sense. What? And then 4 days later, Tommy Wildfire Rich loses it back to Harley Race. And you're like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
And then you like 20 years later, you read about like the business decision behind it and why it is just all these weird things that happened. And then you read about why they happened or this guy dropped the world belt because he was about to be arrested and they needed, something like that. It's just crazy, filling in the blanks of your childhood, right? And answering these big questions about wrestling that you grew up with. And there's a ton of stuff out there now about, well, even that series, what is it called? It's like The Dark Side of the Ring, I think. Right.
Vice.
Right. So that kind of content has been popular for a while in book form and YouTube videos and all. They call them shoot. It's a shoot interview. It just means you're telling the raw truth and you don't care who you piss off or what. You're doing a shoot interview. And so that kind of content has been out there for a while. It's pretty fascinating as I'm concerned.
So before we get to quick takes, I want to know like what was the what made you decide to go to comics? Uh,
Mm,
when you could write literally any form.
yeah.
But was it the story specifically that made you decide comics, or was it just a curiosity of making comics?
Oh, so it's a good question. I grew up a pretty, I would say, even as a kid, comics were a part of my life, right? My first comic book shop was the convenience store in the spinner rack, right? I didn't have a comic book store near me, but they would sell them back at we didn't have 7-Elevens in Portland. We had like a poor man's 7-Eleven, which is like a plaid pantry, is what they call them. So, but I bought my comic books there. They weren't. I definitely say I was not as fascinated with comics. I loved comics, but not. I was more fascinated with the wrestling.
Hmm.
Wrestlers were my superheroes. They wore masks. They leapt from great heights. They dealt and received an amazing amount of punishment, and they somehow kept going. And you had guys like the Great Kabuki who could spit green mist from his mouth into
Nice.
Dusty Rhodes' eyes, right?
Yeah.
And all this craziness. I always wanted to work in like animation or games, and I found my way into games, and it's been a great career. I really enjoyed it. When Matt and I stumbled upon the story for Wrestletopia, we have plenty of, we've written screenplays that just no one will ever read. I've written other stuff that no one will ever read, right? But we got to put this story out there into the world. I want this to be something that people can see and experience, right? So comic books is kind of the easy answer in that, while not cheap for two people that are bootstrapping, we didn't have $70 million to make a video game or a movie or something. Right? So, um, we also, and so, I mean, that was, to be honest, the driving decision was, I want this to be out there in the world so that people can experience this story. That was the drive. That was the biggest driver. And I like comic books a lot. I have a pull list. The owner of my local is a friend of mine. But if I could have done it, like if movies were cheaper than comics, I would have made a movie out of it. If it was easier to make a movie than a comic book, I would have made a movie, because I just wanted the story to be born into the world. Now that being said, comics are great. Like I said, I have a pull list. I love having a stack of floppies and trades or graphic novels on my nightstand. They're wonderful, and I have even a stronger appreciation for it, having done. We did 6 individual issues, and then we collected them into a trade, and it took us a while. And I have been to the book is in 30 different comic stores. I've been to every comic book store almost in Oregon and Washington, talking to the owners, checking things out. I've been on podcasts. The more and more I experience comic book culture, going to small cons and events, the more I appreciate them and the more I love them. Interacting with, for Free Comic Book Day, the last one, I was at 2 different stores in Portland, and just talking to people and seeing them at the comic book store with their kids, and it's such a great community, and it's so much fun to have this shared experience, the loving comic books with lots of different people. I appreciate it more and more and more, and we're gonna keep making them. We're working on our next thing. It's gonna, it's we can't draw, so it's going to take us. We can't draw like Kyron, so it's going to take us a little longer. But I love it. You know what I mean? Like my goal is that to sell enough of Wrestletopia to make our next thing, sell enough of that to make a next thing. Like I would love to always be producing a comic book, even if if the outcome just is we can kind of break even ish. I would never stop. Right. I would never stop.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the accessibility of making comics is one of the things that draws a lot of creators to it. But I think the community, like you were talking about, the interacting with the fans as the creator of a story or as the person that's telling the story is something that's it's not necessarily unique to comics, but that's something that you might not get in, if you work in film or if you work in, or video games. You might not, the person experiencing thing might not know that you wrote this story,
right? Yeah.
So I would think it's a little different.
Yeah, I think for a writer, because I'll be honest, in the video game industry, the writers aren't. I mean, I've been writing in video games. I've been working in video games since 2001, and I have been a writer most of that time. As a writer, you're not the most important. Usually, it depends on the game, but you're not the most important person on this game. You're really not. And a lot of games, the story is appreciated and people enjoy it, but it's not a lot of games, it's not the most important thing that's going on. With comic books, it's a whole different, the artist and the writer, the principal artists and the writers, it's all you. You're out there front and center, right? And it's a very different experience than when you're interacting with comic book fans and than necessarily going to like E3 when they had it and Game Developers Conference and all that stuff. It's not. I mean, they're both great experiences, but comic books is really interesting.
I would love to go to E3.
I only went to 2 in my whole life, but they were fun. They were a good time.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's great. Okay, so we gotta do quick takes. We're a little bit, but so if you haven't seen the show before, Quick Takes is a rapid fire Q&A session where we grill our guests on their deepest, darkest secrets from the internet. So Kyron,
I don't have to
whenever
show
you're ready.
Search history, do I?
Yes.
Quick takes.
So, Ed, these are just going to be some questions to get our audience to know you a little bit better. And you're going to have 45 seconds each to answer each one off the top of your head. And here we go. All right. Question number 1. Wait.
Whoa, what is this? This is a new. Whoa, I like that.
Okay, I like it too. That's pretty cool.
Set the clock.
Kyron's always messing with stuff.
Sorry,
Kyron's always
I lost 2 seconds. It's okay. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying I lost it.
Okay, so question number 1. I've been recently going fishing with my dad a lot, and I cannot catch a fish to save my life. So 45 seconds. Give me your best fishing tips.
It's summer. In most places, fish go much deeper to the cooler water. It's too hot for them at the surface. Get some weights, get some line down there. You got to fish deeper in the summer.
Okay. Hey, that's enough. That's enough for me right there. Because that is
and
definitely
don't
something
get your
that
human stink on the line, the hook, or the bait. Wear gloves, and so you don't get your human smell all over all that stuff.
Oh, okay. See, my dad, he's always teasing me because I literally can't. My daughter's caught fish. My son has caught fish while we were out there. I'm the only one who can't catch anything. So I'm gonna use that. Okay. Question number 2. Say, and you kind of answered this a little bit, but we're gonna ask it anyway. If you say you were guaranteed to be able to make money, to support your family and to do the things that you want to do, for the rest of your life, you can only write games or comics. Which one do you pick and why?
I'd pick comics. I think that because as a comic book writer, you just have so much more effect on the final product to tell your stories in collaboration with some art, the artist. But comics, it feels more personal and creatively probably a little bit more fulfilling. And then I think with the comic books, it's like I could do my own stories. I wouldn't necessarily. Video games, I'm usually writing a work for hire for somebody else. With comic books, I could, for better or for worse, they're my projects, and I think that's a big plus, right?
That makes sense. That makes
I
sense.
mean, you could twist it and
Okay.
say you could make your own games.
My own
with
video
that.
game studio. That's true. I feel
Mhm.
like my own video game studio would be. I mean, it would be great, but it's also a lot of headaches to own a studio. And then again, remember what I said about like how many people do you need to take to make a game? Well, it depends on the game, but like to manage like
Right.
40 people, 30 people, 20 people, and then also write the story.
There are some good
Yes,
stories in video games though.
absolutely.
Like there's some
They're usually
great
not written by
stories.
me, but sometimes some of them. I like to see a couple. So
My kids are playing these Undertale games. And I'm like, I'm surprised at like
yes,
how deep
I
these
don't, and
really
I don't mean
simple
to be
games.
like sound like I'm down. There are some amazing storytelling going on in writing, but you know, historically, gameplay is king, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
gameplay is
yeah,
king. Now, it's not like you have to choose. You can have amazing story and
yeah.
an excellent gameplay, but gameplay is king, and you know.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, so question number 3. Um, as a creator of a comic book, um, I always struggle with the balance between going out and selling my books to the stores where people are coming in to buy them, and making content online to sell to people who are right here
Yeah.
in the audience. So um in your opinion, in the future, which one do you think would get a higher percentage of your time, going out to stores to get a captive audience, or pushing out to people who follow you online,
Okay, and
and why?
like the physical, so the difference is the physical. I've had way more luck going to comic book stores and showing them my book
Hmm.
and having them buy it from me than I have
Mm.
selling online. Now, I think it's probably the smart money is I need, to get on TikTok and figure out how to freaking sell some books online. But I've thought about like buying a van for $2,000 and driving down the West Coast for a week. I've seriously considered it. It's more fun to go to the stores and interact with people,
Yeah.
but it's smarter to be good online. I just haven't figured out how to do
I'll tell you this,
it.
Ed. If you bought a van for $2,000, and I'm gonna tell you, this is some
Yeah.
free game right here. If you chronicled your journey
Yeah.
down the West Coast selling your comic book, and posted those videos on TikTok, and offered to sell them while you're doing it, or even package that video or that story information after you're done, those would sell. That would sell books, and that would endear your audience to kind of the hustle of
I,
what you're doing. So I just want to put that seed
there's a
in
I
your
do
VW.
mind
need
right there.
I do
Yeah.
need to state that the Foretales podcast does not. Sorry, the words of Danny J. Quick do not reflect the Foretales podcast in its entirety. Any financial decisions you make are yours and yours alone, and do not fall upon the Foretales podcast legally.
So there's a
I'm
there's
just
a
saying.
there's a VW van for sale in like in this church parking lot, and I'm thinking about it. I thought about it, and then I think like, what if it breaks down in like
Mhm.
Bakersfield, California? And
Oh,
it's
you'd be
like,
cool
oh,
in
so
Bakersfield.
what?
There's
Then I'll
tons of
just
people there that can fix it.
yeah, I'll just
Kyron's right around the
Bakersfield
corner.
is like
Just
5 hours
yeah, that's
away
right.
from you, sir.
oh,
um, it's not out of the question. It's not out of the question, Danny. I'm going to give it more thought based on your advice, especially.
there we go. There we go. Okay, and oh nope, I got a
Cool.
question number 4. So I believe you took a trip to Venice a few years ago, and
Yeah.
I saw some of the pictures that you posted of the art, in the chapels there.
Oh yeah.
And kind of the story, and it took me back to when me and my wife went to Paris, and,
Yeah.
we were at the cathedrals and all that stuff, the Arc de Triomphe, and I was wondering, what the art says about, that time, and how we look
Mm.
back on it. What do you think, in the future, the art that we make today will say about us?
That we've lost something.
Mhm.
I mean, if you look, when you went to Paris, and I'm sure you saw. I don't know if you went to the Louvre or not, or I haven't been to Paris, but I'm sure you saw some amazing art. And I went to Italy, and I've been to Milan and Venice, and seen some of the stuff that like Michelangelo did. I saw the Sistine Chapel, right?
Mhm.
That a human being can do that is mind blowing. there was some secret sauce back then that artists had, like Leonardo da Vinci. There was some, and I think I don't know. It fascinates me. There's something about the way they were taught to think, to really think, and to be and given an opportunity to perfect those skills to the maximum of human ingenuity. I'm out of time, but we've lost. Now we're using AI, right, to make now we're excited about AI.
Not we,
Yeah.
sir.
So
Not
No,
we.
we're not.
yeah, I know. That we've when I look at that stuff, I mean, my first thought is beautiful, but then I think like we've lost something. Maybe we'll get back, but
we touched on it a bit at the beginning of the show. We just don't have. It doesn't seem like we have the time, like as adults, because we're always scrambling to do the next thing or to make the next thing. We don't have the time to master things, and really put those 10,000 hours, that's 20,000 hours into what it is. So, yes, we have lost something. That's something that's very valuable. So, okay, question number 5, and this is the last one. But of course, we could not let you leave the show without getting a top 5 list from you. And we have to, because you have such a deep history in wrestling. Wrestling, I would like to know your top 5 wrestlers. And you can rank them. This can be impact or best, like showman, whatever in your head makes a wrestler the best. I want to get your top 5 wrestlers.
Okay. Let me preface this by saying these people may or may not be horrible human beings in real life. I'm not even. I'm just putting it out there. But based on their character,
just in the ring. This is just in the ring stuff.
Ric Flair, Randy Savage. I'm gonna go Dusty Rhodes.
Okay.
Gonna go The Rock.
Okay. All right now. Okay, The Rock.
I'm gonna go I don't know, who would I put? This is sort of a local sentimental choice in Playboy Buddy Rose, who's doesn't probably belong in the same category. But you mentioned the territories. I was a little kid watching Pacific Northwest Wrestling, and Playboy Buddy Rose was like a big deal, and I was like, that's the sentimental nostalgia favorite.
Stone Cold is my guy. Stone
Cold. I almost put him in there. I probably should have moved The Rock up a little bit. I would put The Rock before Dusty Rhodes.
I like that. That's a great list though. Ric Flair. That guy is still wild.
He's still alive.
But speaking of Pacific Northwest Wrestling, a lot, as I've mentioned a couple times on our show, I actually trained to wrestle for 2 years back in the early 2000s.
Oh, no way.
And the guy that trained me actually wrestled up in the Pacific Northwest a few times.
Oh, no way. Do you remember his name?
The Big Ugly. JD Bishop.
The Big Ugly. JD Bishop. That JD Bishop sounds.
He actually
familiar.
did a couple matches with Roddy Piper up there. Yep.
Okay, yeah. Roddy Piper lived in the Portland area and was such a. I don't know if we have time for this, but Roddy Piper was super loyal to the promoter of Pacific Northwest wrestler Don Owens. Don Owens gave him. He wasn't the first territory that Piper wrestled in, but Don Owens gave Piper really his big push, and called the people at the NWA headquarters and said, like, this guy's great. We gotta push Piper. He's amazing. I'm sending him out of Portland. He's too good. I'm gonna send him down to Florida or whatever. So when he became a big star for WWF, as it was at the time, Roddy Piper told Vince McMahon, he said, I will never wrestle in Portland for the WWF. I just won't do it. I mean, who tells Vince McMahon? Well, Piper's the biggest heel in the company, right? And not only did he tell Vince McMahon Jr., I will never wrestle in Portland because I love Don Owens too much, but he said, I will wrestle for Don Owens while I'm under contract with WWF. I will fly to Portland and I will wrestle for Don Owens for his NWA promotion. I saw it. I went to the Portland Memorial Coliseum where the Trailblazers used to play, and I saw Roddy Piper wrestle Playboy Buddy Rose, who I just mentioned,
Wow.
And at the time, he was working for WWF. And he lived in the Portland area, and everyone I've never, you meet people that knew him, and they all have good, nice things to say about him. Anyway, that's fascinating. I had no idea that you were. Did you actually wrestle?
Yeah.
Did you ever make it?
I did
wrestle?
3 matches as a wrestler, and then I did
That's
a couple
awesome.
matches as a ref, and then mostly just bodyguard stuff for wrestlers.
Okay.
The security people.
What did you have like a name, like a different name or a character
So
even,
my
or is it?
wrestling name. So I was part of the Lucha Libre Mafia, which is a group here in Northern California.
That's great.
The leader of the group is called El Flaco Loco, which is the crazy skinny guy. I was his brother from another mother because El Flaco Loco is a skinny Mexican guy. I am not skinny, nor am I Mexican. My name was called El Negro Loco.
Well, you know what? In wrestling, this never stopped anybody, right? Chief Jay
Right?
Strongbow was Italian.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yokozuna was not
yeah,
Japanese. He was mostly
Hawaiian, maybe, or was he something? Ivan Koloff, the Russian Bear,
yeah.
French Canadian. It
Doesn't-
never. I'm not saying it's okay, but wrestling had no qualms
Still
about any
doesn't,
of this. No,
honestly.
yeah, they have very few
Right.
qualms. It's all making money. Yeah, I don't know how much more time we have necessarily, or I have, but I do want to let everyone know that if you go to our website and it's in the chat and you want to buy a book, I will personalize your autograph by giving you a wrestling nickname. So like if people want to buy a book, I'll always give them like a nickname, like whatever it is.
I
So
like that.
so speaking of, what was it? El Loco,
El Flaco Loco.
Flaco Loco, and you were,
I was El Negro Loco.
Yeah, right.
The skinny.
Yeah.
The skinny crazy guy. Sorry.
Yeah. I personally will probably not give anybody a racially, charged nickname because I don't know you, but I'll give you a cool wrestling nickname.
Sounds good to me.
Cool wrestling nickname is also good for TikTok.
Oh yeah,
I'll say that. Tell people for some reason they like to have their books signed and personalized, and they'll leave you comments and they'll buy your books. And I'm just telling you though, I think I've had people go ask Kyron to draw them horses because I've just told them that he hates it so much, and that's why I have him drawing a seven issue series of just horses.
The shaman's going to go to a horse ranch in Montana.
God,
absolutely. But no, thank you so much, Kyron. I know this is you got to end the show. So
all right. I do want to mention that Quick Takes was brought to you by Gemini Comic Supply. Use code ACEBLADE to get 10% off on your next purchase. Ed,
I was gonna say this week, Quick Takes was brought to us by Jackson Holiday. You can save 20 pounds of
God, if you had told me you were gonna do that, I would have got this sound up.
I completely forgot.
Ed, we do want to make sure our followers follow you and keep track with your work. So, where are the best places online to keep up with you?
Well, I guess TikTok. I guess we're on TikTok. So Suspicious Behavior Productions is on pretty much everything: TikTok, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, YouTube. Do our best to be active on those platforms. I'm going to be making more TikTok videos because that's apparently you guys are doing well there. So I need to figure that out. So yeah, Facebook, really everything. Suspicious Behavior Productions, and then there's the website that's scrolling. You can find all our social media links there, and you can buy the book, and you can also find out how to get digital copies. That's just more your speed. Digital copies of Wrestletopia. So, thanks so much for having me, and I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Danny, where can people check you out?
If you want to find me, the best place to go is our website, fourthwallpros.com. And if you want to find me on social media, the best place is at the Ace Blade on all social media platforms. Kyron, where can people
The
find
best
you?
place to find me is September 21st at CrockerCon in the Sacramento region. It is a free event. We are expecting a good crowd there. But if you want to find me online, you can go to tauruscomics.com. I'm at Taurus Comics on all social media platforms. And if this is the first time you checked out our podcast, you can go to our website, fourtailspodcast.com. You can listen to our previous episodes, buy merchandise, support us that way. Definitely join us next week where we will have Nathan Webb joining us all the way from the UK. So please come out and listen to him. But until then, everybody, sayonara, goodbye, and please take care of yourselves.
I want to know what it is Quick is trying to say.